Good morning. My name is Chris Nealand, and I am one of the co-founders of The Gathering and the CEO of Cult Collective, and I very much thank you for being here today. This is an inaugural event that was conceived last May, and I must confess there were many times along this journey that we wondered if anybody was going to show up. And so we're thrilled to see not only this room filled to capacity, but frankly, there's a pretty long standby list. A lot of people were hoping you would miss your flights so that they could be here and take your seat. So I really hope that you find this a very worthwhile use of your time. I know that our team has worked very hard to make sure that this is a day filled with learning and that it's a night filled with celebration. So we thank you for being here. We encourage you to sit back, buckle up, and we're going to try to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time. I wanted to just take 1 minute and thank our sponsors. It really does take a village to raise an event, and everybody that has helped us along this journey has been absolutely fantastic to work with. And some people, frankly, have participated because they believe in our cause and they want to support the movement that we're trying to create. Other people's participated because they're hoping for a return on their investment. And so if you see something today that you've enjoyed, it could be the wine, it could be the videos, it could be the production itself. All of that was outsourced to a very capable group of sponsors. And I would encourage you to seek them out, tell them thank you, and maybe give them a business card because I'm sure they could do something wonderful for you and your business as well. I wanted to really just take a few minutes and kick off today describing and elaborating on the theme of this conference, which is really cult brands and why we choose to celebrate them. And I wanted to do that with a bit of a story. I turned 40 this year. And if you're my age, you grew up wanting to be like Mike, right? He was everything for us in my generation. The only problem was I can't dunk a basketball. I shouldn't say the only problem. There's several problems. The biggest problem is I can't dunk a basketball, right? So throughout high school and college and several men's leagues, I have tried to be like Mike and dunk a basketball. And I've kept at it, and I worked hard at it, and finally, this happened. This is something that I've been working on for a long time. I'm never going to dunk a basketball. I'm just not tall enough. Yeah, thank you. My son got quite a kick out of filming that in front of, I had to clear the gym to do that in front of all those people. It's physically impossible. I obviously can't jump. I can't palm a basketball. So I've come to the realization that it's not going to happen for me. Too often, we look at amazing brands and we look at the leaders behind those brands and we envy them and we wish that we could be like them, that we could do what they do. But then, unfortunately, too often we make excuses. We convince ourselves that it's impossible. Maybe we're not smart enough. Maybe we're not talented enough. Maybe our boss isn't good enough to let us do it, or our organizational culture is holding us back. So we end up falling way, way short of our potential and becoming really the brand leaders that we want to be. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. And I mean no disrespect to the fabulous brand leaders that have been congregated here today, but they are not genetically superior to us. They do not have something in their DNA that we do not have. When you study their stories, you realize that it is possible to do what they do. But most of us will never get there because we lack one of three things that they have that too often we don't. The first is desire. Great brand leaders have a burning desire to do something great. They have a healthy disdain for the status quo. And they don't fool themselves into thinking that just because I'm busy, I'm actually effective. They aren't pleased with mediocre results. They don't brag about modest year-over-year same-store sales or single-digit campaign response rates. They refuse to settle for good enough. And most importantly, they want to make a difference in the world. Their biggest professional desire isn't to get people to buy. It's to get people to buy into their cause, buy into the movement that they're trying to create. So I really hope my biggest desire of this conference is that we are inspired to dream bigger, to expect more from our careers, to hold ourselves and our organizations more accountable, to not just be profitable, but to be awesome. If you have the desire, perhaps you're lacking the courage. Great brand leaders have courage. Now, this is a picture of my family's favorite hike. It's 15 minutes from here, so if you're sticking around over the weekend, it's called Johnson Canyon. And it's spectacular because engineers literally bolted a steel railing into the side of a cliff so that you walk over the river valley below. I like this picture because it reminds me of a famous quote from a mountaineer that says, "If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room." Cult brand marketers refuse to contribute to the noise and the clutter that is all around us. And instead, they display tremendous courage to do something that is bold enough to be noticed. They literally dare to be different. It's going to be very easy to sit here today and to just passively partake in the information that you hear. But I hope that some of you will take some of the stories and some of the examples and return to your day jobs on Monday more motivated and more confident to become the type of marketer that you're capable of being. If you have the desire and if you have the courage, then perhaps all you're really lacking is the knowledge. My team and I have spent about the past 2 years trying to dissect and decode what is it that makes these iconic cult brands so much better than everyday, ordinary brands. Following my remarks, Denise is going to come up here as our keynote speaker. She's going to share with you her experiences over the past 25 years that perfectly align with the same conclusions that we've come to. The simple fact is that cult brands behave differently. And once you understand their playbook, then you can simply duplicate some of their plays and then start to reap some of the benefits that they enjoy. So let me very briefly explain to you the 6 things that we think cult brands do, and these would be the criteria by which the winners were selected throughout the fall to be recognized at this gala. First, cult brands do something remarkable. Now, don't be scared by that word. All right, being remarkable doesn't mean you have to drop a guy out of outer space. Now, admittedly, Aaron, that was awesome. And that was cool, and you can hear today why and how Red Bull chose to do that. But that is extreme, all right? Being remarkable simply means that you give customers something to talk about. The dictionary defines remarkable as worthy of our notice or attention. So if something that you're doing, it could be your customer service, could be a product, it could be a marketing platform. If something you're doing isn't worthy of somebody's notice or attention, then why are you wasting so much time and money on advertising trying to convince us that it is? You know, Blendtec's ads and marketing are not very sophisticated, right? They simply show a super remarkable product in a really fun, demonstrable way. And they ended up getting tens of millions of people talking about it on their own on YouTube. If you go to Bob's session later this afternoon with Big Rock, you're going to learn about how Canada's largest craft brewer took a very honest look in the mirror and realized some of what they were doing wasn't remarkable. So they had the courage to take that product off of the shelf and invent new product. And until they were in love with the product they brewed, they weren't going to spend time and money trying to advertise and to convince us it was great. The second thing that great cult brands do is they have a very powerful brand ethos. They align themselves with things that people care about. Your best customers are more motivated by what you stand for than what you sell. That is critical. I'll say that again. Your very best customers will be more motivated to do business with you because of what you stand for than what you sell. So you have to make sure your marketing efforts are spending an appropriate amount of time explaining your reason for being, rather than just shouting deals and discounts and trying to bribe people to buy from you. Dove became a market leader because they redefined beauty, and they helped women appreciate how beautiful they really are. If you go to Todd's GoPro session later today, you're going to hear all about a brand that isn't about cool digital cameras. They are a brand that encourages people to live a big life. They want you to go out and do something so cool that you want to make your own movie about it. That is why GoPro is what it is. The third principle is to inspire people from the inside out. Cult followings begin at the core of a company, your employees, especially your frontline employees or your customer service employees, people who have daily interactions with your customers. You know, Zappos has built a culture that has become so aspirational, they are literally flooded with job applications. Statistically speaking, it is easier to get into Harvard than it is to get a job at Zappos. Chris Fountain from Pita Pit, who is here today, will explain how despite the fact that his chain collects 2/3 less advertising co-op funds than all of their major competitors, they are growing market share by focusing on the fanatical behavior of their workforce. Cult brand leaders understand that it is their job, not HR, not operations, to ensure that their talent and their culture is exceptional. Number 4, cult brands personify human attributes. Brands are not people, but they should act and feel like people. Apple not only personified themselves, but also their biggest competitor in this brilliant campaign. Harley Davidson, whom we'll hear from later today, does this really, really well. Most Harley owners that I know are balding, fat, middle-aged accountants. But when they get on their bike, they transform into badasses. And that is kudos to Harley for helping them become the people that they aspire to be. If you go to Chris Malone's session later this afternoon, you're going to hear him elaborate on why it is so critical that cult-worthy brands make their values and their personality known at every single touch point. Fifth, cult brands co-create with customers. Advertisers of mediocre brands get really good at shouting and relying more and more on mass media to try to get noticed. But cult brands have learned how to shut up and listen. Taco Bell's hugely successful Doritos Locos Tacos are the result of a fan-initiated movement on Facebook. Fremantle Media, the producers of American Idol and X Factor and America's Got Talent, will teach you today how they turned viewers into voters and gave them the power to choose the winner. And if you go to the Saskatchewan Roughriders presentation, you're going to learn how they've taken this concept of co-creation to the extreme by actually selling shares of their team to their fans, literally making them co-owners of the franchise. Lastly, great brands were not born great. They became great through a series of really tough decisions, and in many cases, overcoming tremendous obstacles. No matter the situation, they pull out all the stops to deliver on their brand promise. They resist the urge to cut any corners. Probably the best example in our lifetime is how Tylenol handled this public scare of tampering back in 1982. Tylenol made a $100 million decision to pull all their products off of the shelves. They endured a lot of short-term pain, but it has paid off. And since then, they've enjoyed a lot of long-term gain. The way that they have rebounded from that scandal is now taught in every PR and marketing class around the globe as a best practice. In 2013, I can't think of a better example of this principle of enduring to the end than the Calgary Stampede. In our panel discussion today, Jackie's going to talk about how less than 2 weeks after the nation's single largest natural disaster, the Stampede showed their true colors. And they taught us that come hell or high water, they are going to pull off the greatest outdoor show on earth. Those are the 6 things that matter most. Those are the 6 things that separate the good from the great. And I hope that you are taking notes, because we're going to ask you to apply that knowledge later today. 8 brands are being recognized today as being the best of the best in 2013. A handful of others are among us today as honorable mentions and being recognized for being cult capable and well on their way to becoming best. But the best cult brands are not just about the leaders behind them, they're about the followers, us, the fans of what they do. So at tonight's gala, we're going to present a People's Choice Award. We've called it the Pinnacle Award. And between now and then, you need to get on your phones to cult.ca/vote and pick which of these 8 brands do you think best displayed the 6 core principles that I just took you through. It could be from your experience with them outside of the conference, or it could be from some insight that you gleaned from their presentation. But Cabby tonight will get the real-time results, and we'll crown one of the 8 winners the ultimate cult brand of 2013. Now, we have a lot of great speakers today, and we have very little time to get through everything. So logistically speaking, let me just run through a couple of details. This is called the Cascade Ballroom. The Alberta Ballroom is literally right across the hall. All of the sessions will be taking place in one of the 2 rooms. We're only allowing ourselves 5 minutes in between sessions. So we're just going to be like high school where the bell rings and you got to get from one end to the other and stop by your locker. So please take all of your belongings with you as you choose to go back and forth from room to room. After a couple of key intervals, such as this morning's keynote, lunch, and the afternoon break session, we're going to ask everybody to vacate the room so that we can reset for the next speaker. So we have some staff that we affectionately refer to as people movers that are going to very politely usher people in and out, and we ask that you please be accommodating. We're going to do our best to ensure about 150 people are in each room. We want to ensure a great audience for all of our speakers. So it will be first come, first serve. Please don't trample each other in your eagerness to go hear a particular person speak. Also, one of the promises of the gathering is a much more intimate, interactive affair. So in most sessions, you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions directly to the speaker. We're going to try to facilitate that via Twitter. The Wi-Fi is a little sketchy in this stone castle in the middle of nowhere, so we're not 100% confident on how it will work, but every session will have its own unique Twitter handle. The conference's Twitter handle is simply hashtag The Gathering, and within each session there'll be a suffix added to that, The Gathering Red Bull, The Gathering GoPro, etc. During the speaker, you can tweet in questions, and at the end, we'll then field questions from the audience using those Twitter handles. I think that was everything I was supposed to cover. All right. Let me welcome to the stage our keynote speaker for today. Denise has 25 years experience working with some of the biggest and best brands in the world: Sony, Frito-Lay, Oakley, Burger King. She now speaks all over the country about how to build exceptional brands, and her new book just came out, What Great Brands Do. Ladies and gentlemen, Denise John.